Hey everybody, David Essel here. It's so nice to have you with me again today. Today I'm really excited to share with you the story of an event that absolutely changed my life. And it was in 1996. It was a few years ago, but I think about this event all the time. And because of my opportunities to speak on a weekly basis for civic groups and professional groups and religious groups and sales teams and all these other places that I speak at, I'm able to share the story quite a bit because it means so much to me. Have you ever met someone that totally changed your life? Have you ever met someone that maybe you only had an occurrence with them that lasted 5 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour, but you know that they truly were put in your path to change your life? Well, in 1996, as I said, I did have this opportunity to meet such a person, and the effects have been profound. And it's affected everything from my personal life, my professional life, my relationships. And that individual I'm talking about is the founder of Transcendental Meditation, no longer with us, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Now, say that name 3 times fast, right? Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was an individual that and I believe it was in the 50s, had to be in the 50s, he founded Transcendental Meditation. And back in the mid-90s, I hosted a nationally syndicated radio talk show, and his organization was looking for one media outlet in order to talk about the 40th anniversary, the 40 years anniversary of Transcendental Meditation. Now, if you go to tm.org, or if you go to the National Institutes of Health and Google in Transcendental Meditation, you will find so many studies on the power of TM. Now, a number of years before I had a chance to interview Maharishi, I was actually a TM follower. I had gone through an intensive 3-day workshop and to learn how to do Transcendental Meditation, and I had been doing it for a number of years before I had a chance to interview him. And to this day, I still use TM as a form of meditation every day of my life, and I find it to be fantastic. So when his organization was looking around for this media outlet, somehow they found my show, my radio talk show. It was called David Essel Live, and we hooked up to have him as our guest and to talk about the 40th anniversary. I had no idea, other than being outrageously excited to interview him because of all the work that he had done and because of all the amazing studies that had come out showing the power of meditation on a daily basis in regards to everything from bone density to recidivism to prison, that means return to prison rate amongst inmates that were let free, to alcoholism and addiction, to decreasing stress, of course, meditation, to creativity. I mean, there's all kinds of studies talking about the power of meditation. Well, during the interview, I remember just saying, this guy is so joyous. It was like interviewing a little child in many ways, like when you see a child like giggling all the time. No matter what you say, they're just in that giggly kind of mood. That's what it was like interviewing Maharishi. He was just so full of joy and so full of laughter and so full of fun, and it didn't matter what the topic was. It didn't matter if I was talking about the struggles that he had gone through, or it didn't matter, regardless of what, or the incredible success the movement had had. And I remember at the very end of the show, I asked him a final question, and I said, Maharishi, it's been 40 years of promoting Transcendental Meditation, of the studies that were done, and I don't remember the numbers, but you have 100,000 trained practitioners, 500,000 people that do TM on a daily basis, and on and on and on. Number of countries that this is in right now, that people that practice TM are in. And I said, what surprised you the most? And there was this long pause, followed by a giggle. "Oh, David," in his little Indian accent, right? He said that all those numbers that I had just spouted off, all these statistics with a huge number of people that have benefited from Transcendental Meditation, he said, that was my 5-year plan, David. And he started laughing. He goes, it took us 40 years to get there, but that was my 5-year plan. And with that, he giggled some more and laughed some more. And I said something, a couple other things, and we ended the interview, And the next day I woke up and I said, I really don't remember much except for the very last story of him giggling about that was his 5-year plan versus it taking 40 years to hit those numbers, and the fact of how much joy he had. It was like it touched me deep in the soul. 3 weeks later, I'm speaking in Orlando, Florida, at this conference on health and motivation and everything. And And a woman comes up to me and says, I listened to the interview that you had with Maharishi, and I've been with him for, I think it was 36 of the 40 years. And when he first started, there'd be a group of us that would sit around and listen to him speak. He was spellbinding. He was just an amazing speaker. And she said, what did you take out of it? And I said, I have to tell you something. I only remember one thing. And she said, really, what was that? And I said that he was so filled with joy. And the next thing she said shocked me. And she said, David, that's the reason that you interviewed him, is because your life does not have enough joy. And we talked for a little bit longer, and I said, what are you talking about? Let me go back to the statement you said. What are you talking about? I think I'm pretty joyful. She said, well, obviously you're not, if that's all you remembered. She goes, we would sit for 8 hours. There'd be a group of us that would sit and listen to him speak for 8 hours. Each of us would walk out, and they go, what do you remember? What do you remember? And as we compared notes, we each just remembered one thing. And that one thing was what was missing the most out of our lives. She goes, David, it happened all the time. Don't take it personally. That you think you're joyful, but you're really not. But that's what you need to work on. And as I reflected on my stage of life at that point, a number of years ago, she was right. I was a workaholic. I had no time for a social life. I had no time for even a relationship I was in. There wasn't enough time for the person I was with at that time. And she was right. That interview and the discourse with this young woman afterwards totally changed my life. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, in his unbelievable wisdom, in his infinite wisdom, was tapping into something that I needed to hear, I needed to experience, I needed to see. And maybe as you're watching this today, you can do one of a couple of things. Number one, think of someone who really touched you, or a mentor who really molded you. It could be a mother, a father, an aunt, an uncle, a grandfather. It could be a college professor. It could be a best friend. It could be a former partner that you still respect. And hopefully you still do respect your former partners because they were here to teach you something magical. But as you reflect back onto someone who's changed your life, touched your life, are you still taking their advice now? Are you still learning from what they taught you? I know from Maharishi, I learn it and I hopefully live it every day at a much higher level than I did when I interviewed him. So look for the teachers, the mentors, the masters in life, and get excited about their message. I know with Maharishi, the number one thing is, how joyful are you, David? How joyful are you daily? Regardless of what's going on in the outside world with money, health, finances, relationships, career, lack of the above, whatever it might be, how joyful are you? I think if we keep that center focus, we can really experience a life that's much deeper, broader, wider, and more exuberant and exciting than we could ever imagine. If I can help you one-on-one or come on into your group and speak about all these different things that we cover, changing lives, lifting spirits with passion, all these different topics we cover, business and sales, and you name it, we go there. Visit us at talkdavid.com and either call me or leave me an email. I'd love to help you to become more successful and more joyous. I'm David Essel. Until next time, have an awesome day. Bye-bye now.